Hi everyone, Namaste. Welcome to Pawcast with Sneha, powered by Oh My Dog. Thank you so much for giving love to our first video, which came out last week. Today we have our very first guest here, and we'll be talking about something very important, which is mental health in correlation with animal welfare. Nida is here. She is a very, very special friend, and she is the founder of Rocky Books. She is an award winning writer and a social entrepreneur who writes about experiences of children going through domestic violence, abuse, or any kind of trauma induced from natural calamities. She's written a lot of books, mainly specifically for children, with a lot of visual representation and which kind of gives kids some sort of validation and understanding that they are being heard, and there are lots of resources that they can use to reach out for help and voice out if they're going through some kind of a violence at home. Along with that, Nida is an amazing person. She's a pet lover. She's a pet parent. In fact, one of her the first pet she had was called Rocky, on whom the brand has been cultivated. And Rocky has crossed the Rainbow Bridge quite some time back now. But her other dog, Sunny, is still a part of her life, and she is also experienced working with a lot of animals, fostering, pet sitting, or just rescuing them. She's been part of many canine squad groups. Right now, she's part of the Jayanagar Canine Squad group and has deep understanding and love for animals. We have Nida here today, and we will have some nice, fun, inspirational conversations with her. And so, welcome, Nida. Thank you so much for coming to Podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
I'm so excited and a little nervous also because this is the first time I'm doing something like this. But I hope we'll have some good conversations and some fun and some very insightful conversations from you.
We always do.
So, how have you been, and have you ever done a podcast before this?
I have done a few podcasts / interviews. I did one really cool one with, there's this charity called Politics for Her, which is a charity, an organization that teaches politics to young women around the world, so that have them know their rights and know what's going on in the world.
Lovely.
That was a really fun one.
That's so interesting. After I've met Nida, and through her I've been lucky to meet a few more other wonderful people working in the similar fields, and it has been so interesting to have conversations around mental health and animal welfare. And there are so many correlations, like so many places where you can really connect both working with animals and mental health. Today, I just wanted to have you here because I wanted to know your perspective, of course, because you've worked so much around kids who have trauma and families who are going through some kind of a trauma. I wanted to know how you feel there's a correlation between trauma in children and trauma per se animals, that they go through some different kind of abuses and traumas in life. I'd like to start with this conversation, that what according to you is the connection, is the correlation?
I think it's important for everybody to realize that animals aren't that different from us. They have feelings and they have memories, most importantly. If you have ever been around a rescue dog, or if you've ever rescued a dog, you'll know that.
Right.
You'll know, some dogs are afraid of loud noises. Some dogs are afraid even if you raise your hand, they start cowering. Or if you raise a stick in front of them, they, do that. And that's PTSD. We see the same thing in children who have even witnessing domestic abuse is akin to experiencing it themselves. So you see a lot of that in children. They don't, loud voices are troubling to them. Things like that. Animals and humans aren't that different. The more we realize that, I think the easier it'll become.
I also feel likewise. I feel because humans have this concept of the conscious and the subconscious, and animals, I feel, only has the subconscious. So for them also, these reactions towards loud sound or some kind of behavior pattern or something is stems from that subconscious, obviously, which captures that trauma when they're going through it. That is so similar, but such a thin line, because I think for people, usually they don't think so deep when they're dealing with rescued dogs and cats. Of course, people who rescue are into this field, they would know, but adopters or people who have not had rescued dogs, they probably do not understand this concept. I think, of course, to have conversations around it and to build awareness through it is the first step that we can take. Perfectly answered, definitely. And I also would want to ask that, since Rocky Books, of course, is named after your first dog, Rocky, why don't you just tell us a little about him and how he came into your life, and what was the experience being his parent? And
I first saw Rocky on Twitter. Someone had posted his photo on Twitter, and it was this person's friend who had rescued him in Koramangala. And the photo of him was so cute. It was just him on the street. He had been abandoned, and he was living on the street. And he was looking like that, and there was something in his eyes that was really intelligent. There was something in his eyes, and I couldn't stop thinking about that picture of that dog.
He was a Spitz mix, I believe, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Spitz, Indian Spitz. Yeah. And so I messaged this person and I said, hey, I'd like to meet him. So I went and met him. His rescuer is a girl called Priya, and we became friends, and we're still really good friends. She couldn't keep him because she's from Singapore, and he was fully shaved. They had shaved him in the vet's office. He was covered in hundreds of tick bites. He was very ill, very weak. I just felt bad for him, and I wanted a dog at the same time. So I brought him home, and it was a long journey. He was quite reactive in the beginning because I'm assuming he had been through a lot. I'm assuming maybe people had thrown things at him, maybe people had shouted at him, or he was quite fearful, quite reactive, very reactive towards other dogs. It was a very big learning curve for both of us.
Right.
He was figuring me out, I was figuring him out. And we don't talk a lot about difficult dogs, being the pet parent of a difficult dog. You love them to bits, but it's also stressful at the same time.
Definitely. I think it's so important to understand for people who choose to adopt dogs who come from a very abusive background, that you have to be extra patient with them, and you have to work with them literally. And I think it's the same with adopted children or children who come from that kind of a stressful background. Hats off to you for choosing to adopt and have the courage to bring home a dog who is not so friendly in the beginning, right? And how long did you have him with you? For how many years?
He was with me for 6.5 years. Wow. And he was already, the doctor said, between 5 and 7 when we brought him home.
Right.
So he was already a grown dog.
That's really wonderful. And so and what about your other dog, Sunny? When did you meet him, and how did you get him?
This is a Janagar K9 squad story. I was walking Rocky, and we saw him on the street. He was all by himself. He was this small. He fit in my hand. And then I met another one of our JCS members, Mr. Nagarajan. I would meet him every morning. He feeds dozens of dogs every single morning and evening. And I bumped into him and I said, sir, we found this puppy. And he said, oh, what are we going to do? And then I said, it's okay, for a few weeks, I'll bring him home. I'll nurse him back to health and whatever. Because he was super weak and he was covered in skin mites. And his tummy was bloated. So I'm assuming those were worms. And Mr. Nagarajan he looked in his scooter storage thing, and he got me a plastic bag. And I carried Sunny home in this plastic bag. It was really funny. And we took him to the vet. We got him dewormed, defleed. His vaccine rounds were done with us. He started eating properly. He gained strength. He became like this really healthy, super intelligent dog. And then we had to find a home for him, which was, if anyone's tried rescued a puppy, or a dog and try to find a home, you know how difficult it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, definitely. Again, it's so inspiring because it's extremely important that if you're picking up a dog from the street, it obviously will come with a lot of infections and a lot of diseases and things like that. It's so important that there are so many people who are just so kind and they just cannot leave a dog or a cat on the street and they just pick them up, but they are not aware of or not sensitized enough to know what to do after that.
Yes.
It's so important that I think the first step is to take them to a vet and initially get them checked and do all follow all the protocol, and then maybe slowly take time to get them have them find a home. With some people it so happens because they pick up the animal and then they are clueless about it.
Yeah.
There have been so many such stories when people have picked up the dog and then kept them home for a day or two and then didn't know what to do,
Yeah.
and then put them back on the street. It's so important that people, I wish there was a handbook like this available for everyone, but like Nida said, reach out to NGOs, reach out to rescuers, or people who are aware of this protocol, and take help and take advices from them, and take any rescue first to the vet for a checkup. Very, very
Absolutely,
important.
very important. You don't know
Yeah.
what's going on. The
Yeah.
vet will do a full checkup.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it's amazing to see because nowadays I think a lot of people are open to this concept of rescuing and taking them in, which of course will eventually, hopefully, completely demolish the breeding industry, which is what we are aiming for through all the awareness drives, adoption drives, podcasts, conversations, whatever. I hope that happens. Thank you so much for sharing both Rocky and Sunny's story with us. And I definitely wanted to ask you a few more very important questions before we go to some fun questions, maybe. What I wanted to check was that violence at home often affects both children and pets, people who have both at home. Have you ever thought about Rocky books sparking any kind of a conversation, or any of your stories through Rocky books can maybe capture that as well, wherein children in the household, they have a pet, and how that can help them cope, or how the pet and the child are both reacting to that kind of a violence or abuse at home? Have you ever thought of that idea, or do you want to explore that in future?
I actually read a few days ago that a lot of DV victims don't leave the situation because of their pet is at home and they can't leave their pet.
Right.
And that really made me think about this is a very real situation that many people find themselves in.
Yes.
I think
in, of course, I mean, it's something which also comes in my mind, and I mean, you would be the best person to do it in future also, because I feel like if there is a way that children find a route, maybe for the sake of the animal or the pet that they have, that they reach out to animal welfare for a situation like this, wherein they come to help the pet, and that's how they get to know about the child and the trauma that the child is going through. Maybe this will be like an indirect way of communicating, if sometimes if kids are not comfortable to reach out to human welfare or something like that. I think it's a very interesting conversation to have, and maybe you can talk about it later in your forum and in your
I think a lot has to be done. And I think some people are getting shelters to accept pets, because a lot of shelters don't allow pets.
Right.
But imagine how much easier it would be if
they have it.
They were like, yes, bring everybody who needs to be safe, including your pet.
Lovely. And that would be so great, of course. Another very interesting question I have is that, in your view, what role can storytelling, whether through children's books or narratives about animals, play in creating a kinder society for both humans and animals?
I think a lot of people discount how important it is to inculcate these values in children when they're really tiny. You're doing such amazing work we've seen the videos of you teaching the tiny ones just how to be around animals and how to treat animals, because it's sometimes not, the parents may not know. With anything else, a lot of parents just don't know what to teach, how to go about those conversations, how to go about those discussions. And I think it's important for us to support parent and child
Yes.
in those having those conversations.
Yes.
Because there has to be some what you're teaching the kids in the workshops, they have to be able to go home and have the same lessons being confirmed at home as well with homework.
Yes.
Right. I think that's really important.
Do you think also like that children can be good teachers for their parents sometimes? Children who go through these experiences in schools with animal welfare workshops or drives, etc. Do you think children can often teach their parents certain things that they haven't really been conditioned to as growing up?
I think kids are always going home and telling their parents what they learn, right, in school. We were really lucky because we worked with a school and they used Rocky Books in their mental health program.
Yes.
And the feedback we got from the teacher was we had a lot of kids coming back the next day and saying, oh, I went home and I taught my family the exercises from the books.
Yes.
So they are doing it.
Yes, yes. I think it's so important, again, because children are so very similar to dogs and cats in that way, that this coexistence, this co-relationship with humans and animals is what we are trying to capture through different kind of conversations. It's a very good insight and perspective that we are getting from you as well. All right, a few things about Rocky Books also, as in when did you think about starting Rocky Books, and what did you feel like, what impact it's going to create, and how useful is it going to be, especially in India?
It was an idea in my brain for a really long time. Always felt like there are resources for adult survivors. And whenever there would be talk about children in the household, it would be either, oh, children don't know about it, children don't know what's going on, which is, we know is not true. And two is, I don't want to talk to my children about the difficult subject, maybe because parents are not equipped, or they feel like they're not equipped, or they also feel like they don't want to bring up anything negative with their child, which, as you know, as a psychologist, that's not true either. What was the question?
No, it says that
the idea of Rocky Books.
Idea about Rocky Books and how you feel it would impact when you started. Why? What impact you thought it would create?
I had no idea that it would have a significant impact. I thought it would be a great resource or a supplemental resource.
Like a quick help book sort of.
And what I wanted to do was, our tagline is center the children. And that's what we do. We're like, parents are doing whatever, these people are doing whatever, doesn't matter. These books are going to be about that kid, that kid's feelings, that kid's thoughts when these bad things are happening around them. We didn't want children to constantly be thinking about other people, because that's what they're doing already. We don't need any more of that. Children already blame themselves. Children are already thinking, oh, if I do this, what will happen to my parents? If I do this, what will happen to my siblings? None of that. We wanted to say, center the children. That's our core aim. It's only going to be about that child's experience of trauma, of what is going on.
Yes, definitely important, again, to talk more vocally about it. And I wish, like, in future the schools, more schools are open to kind of keep this as a part of curriculum, just like you teach children about soft skills and moral science, and include these things, include more about conversations around animal, just being kind, and so that it becomes like a conversation at home when children go and tell their parents. That's how they will also know that how their relationships are impacting the child. And for parents who have dogs also, who are equally treated as their children, for them they would know that how traumatic it is, not just for the child but also for the animal. And as my experience, and of course you as well as a pet parent, we all know that humans always transfer the energy that they have towards their dog. So if a child is going through so much trauma at home, they will indirectly transfer that trauma to the dog as well. And wherein the dog's way of defense mechanism would be to bark or become aggressive and things like that. So it will definitely not, the dog is also not going to prove as a therapy or a healing factor for the child. The entire ecosystem gets kind of disrupted in the house for the child and the dog. So I'm constantly trying to connect, keep the child and the dog parallel here, because I think it will always have this ripple effect between both of them. And I think that's something so important to look at with a complete focus on it. Definitely. Thank you so much for answering that question. I have a few fun questions also, like quirky ones. Maybe the conversation should not get too stressful for anybody to listen to also. Say, if dogs could read Rocky books, which one do you think they would relate to the most? I read a few of yours yesterday, and they were like, of course, it's, first of all, it's so amazing because there are so many pictures, and of course the text and everything is so like somebody's independently reading it and it can relate to them, and they were so inspiring and so wonderful, and I think it could be like a very, very great exercise book for children. Now I want to know from you how you think that which book among the ones that you have written so far would relate, if dogs could read it, which one would they relate to most?
I thought about this a lot. We have one book where we have an exercise that was designed by my co-founder Sheena, and it's the paper football exercise, and it's because this young boy in his home, his parents argue, and he can hear them arguing, and it gives him anxiety. And his older brother, as you know, older siblings do, he says, "Come on, let's play a game." And he makes a paper football out of a sheet of paper, and they play with it in their room, and that keeps his mind off of the arguing. That's one of our coping exercises. And I thought, I can just imagine a little dog.
Yes, definitely, because dogs love to play, of course, and that's like the best kind of diversion for them. Definitely, that's I think that is one of the story that dogs would really, really relate to. Nice. All right, let's see. If you could create a bill of rights for street dogs and rescued animals in India, what's one non-negotiable that would go right at the top for you?
Oh, I think everyone would agree with this one. The cruelty, the punishment for any kind of cruelty.
That has to be like the topmost priority, I think. I'm just so thankful because of course you are on the podcast, so you're talking about it, but I want more and more people to talk about it, because that's something that we are forever dealing with, right? There is no penalty, there is no punishment, no charges, nothing for any sort of cruelty. And it's not just about rescued or street animals, it's even pets who are at home. A lot of pets go through so much of abuse at home. I think it should again be treated at par with human rights, and there should be a punishable, there should be a law meant for this. And I think definitely that would be like a common question, I think, for all the people who come on this podcast. And
I think
I'm going to take points from everyone and put it in,
and we're going to actually do it.
Probably,
I think people also don't realize what all constitutes cruelty.
Exactly.
It's not just directly hitting someone. It's keeping them chained, not giving them the proper nutrition, not giving them the proper space for them to be themselves. All of those things also amount to cruelty to animals.
I think that's why it's so important, of course, because most of the pedigree dogs that are here in India, many are not meant for this climate and the weather and the kind of, infrastructure inside living spaces. People, do you think people should self-aware themselves, or maybe if there's a crash course of something like this available online where people can go through, it should become mandatory, right? People to go through like a diploma course or something before taking a pet in.
It has to be law. It has to be, they just have to say this is not allowed. and you can only get a pet from a shelter. And there are, by the way, there are breed dogs in shelters. We see abandoned dogs. I know you see abandoned breed dogs.
Yes, all the time.
All the time.
One very interesting thing happened the other day, and I wanted to know your perspective on it. Somebody I was speaking to told me that there is someone who has a couple of puppies born out of a Rajpalyam, the breed here, which is found here locally, and they want to put it off for adoption. That's how I got the information. When I spoke to the person, she told me a very one line which stuck to me is she said that no, I'm looking for selling them, because I think it will not be justified to give them off without a price because of the worth that they have. Now I know she meant it in a positive way, stating because it's a Rajpalyam, it's an exotic breed, and there are so many puppies, and she felt that if we put a price to it, people will probably take more care, and because they will spend so much on it. So she probably meant it like that. Now the response to that for me was that, first of all, I will not be able to help you further than this. Secondly, if you are open to put them up for adoption, I can help you. But if you are feeling that their worth will be more if they are purchased from you, because somebody will have that obligation that they've spent so much, then you are so wrong. Because they will buy it with the money at that point of time, but they will also end up leaving them on the road if they can't take care of such a large size breed. And I hope she has understood, and I hope she understands it. But I want to know your perspective. How would you have answered to something like this? What would be your take on something like this?
I understand where she's coming from, because she wants to make money off of her puppies. But also, I saw this really cute cartoon, I think on Instagram, and it said, you don't buy a friend. Your dog is your friend, it's your companion, it's your buddy, it's your soulmate. And you don't need to buy a friend. I didn't buy you, of course. But dogs, I think, need to stop becoming commodities and need to enter the friend zone.
So important to, I think, have an app to swipe left and right to look for a companion when you're looking for a dog, and not
that's a good idea.
Buying. That's a really good idea. I hope some startup founder or someone takes this and contacts us, and we will ask for some rights. Another question now again. I'm going back and forth from questions which are typically animal related and then child related, because again, I want to keep the conversation flowing, and I want the difference between humans and animals to go away. Hence, I'm going back and forth. You are tackling lots of serious global issues in terms of domestic violence through a simple format, which is storytelling or writing. Do you think adults sometimes underestimate the power of children's books because they are so simple and they are more like this kiddish thing for entertainment and education, and so they don't really take it that way?
When we started Rocky Books, we just went for it. We, like you asked before, we didn't know the impact it would have, if it would have impact. We didn't know if people would even respond to it. But we led with our hearts, and we said, this is what we would have wanted as children. We have had adults and parents who have younger children, older people and young adults who don't have children. They are the ones who have messaged us and said, that's me in the book. That was my childhood. That was
that's where you know that the impact is coming from, right? People coming up
and there were parents of children who had again gone through the cycle of DA, domestic abuse, and the mom said, I experienced this when I was a kid, and we didn't have the tools and the vocabulary. And now I've seen this. I'm 30 something years old or 40 something years old, and I feel like my inner child is actually being heard now. After all these decades.
Yeah.
And we also work with therapists who use our books in their delivery.
Yes, definitely.
And a lot of them don't even have child clients. A lot of them have adult clients, and they said,
but they should,
I want to use
yeah.
the books with my adult clients, maybe help them tap into.
Yes, because I think that
childhood
would be
trauma.
another way for adults who have children or don't,
Yeah.
for them to read from a child's perspective, right? How it's impacting them. That also kind of connect me to this question when it says like that, how do kids, so you just told us about some of your older clients coming back and giving you feedback. Did you have any such moment when any kids have come and told you that this, that they can see themselves in that particular story, and or they have taken a step or informed someone or spoken to someone about some kind of abuse at home after reading the books?
Children have a very strong moral compass. Always, like any child you meet, they have a very strong idea of right and wrong. It's just that as we get older, that gets
and we make
rubbed
our
out.
own rights and wrongs.
And the world influences you in whatever way.
Yes.
Whenever we talk to kids about Rocky books or what's the theme of Rocky books, you can kind of see their ears perking up a little bit. And I did a little informal session at a Teach for India school last month. And I didn't talk about Rocky books. I just like taught a class. It was part of Leaders Week. And I gave them a little intro. I said, I make storybooks because when I was a kid, my mom and dad used to argue. I made these storybooks to help other kids when I grew up. And when I said that, you could see the energy shift, and suddenly they're like listening very intently. And they're like, oh, this happens to me. I'm not the only one that this is happening to. When you're a child and you go through something negative, you feel like you are the only child on the planet that this thing is happening to. You really feel that way. You feel so isolated and alone. And that was another reason why we started Rocky Books. Just to tell that child, here's a book about a child who's
going through something.
Parents fight at home and they feel anxious and worried and scared and complicated feelings. You're not alone.
I think sometimes, personally for me also, when we grow up, we are conditioned in a certain way. So we know that when mom and dad are fighting or having an argument, it's a grown-up conversation. So it's okay. Like, they are grown-ups. This is their way of conversing. And some of us grow up with that mindset that grown-ups have this kind of angry conversations. When for me also, when I grew up, I don't really remember any active fight between my parents, but we've been seen conversations which is argumentative in nature, and we grew up thinking that, oh, this happens. When in my adulthood I've had fights with my partners or something, it would be like, it happens.
It's model behavior.
Yes, it happens. But then over a period of time, like you said, with our own experiences and understanding, we realize that no, there has to be a good constructive conversation, or a conversation which is not at all beneficial or good or positive in any way. I think that's where we draw the line and understand that this is a conversation and this is a fight. And for children also, I think it's so important. And through your books, the books from Rocky Books are going to give them that understanding when they read through those stories, which is happening in a regular day-to-day life, right? That, this is not a normal conversation. This is a serious fight or a negative conversation. They will have to then reflect on the coping mechanisms or ask for help. That's, I think, one very, very good way of telling the story, and not just telling it like, not making it sound like a fiction, but more like something which happens every day in your life.
Absolutely. So, normalizing.
Yes. And all the conversations, I think, needs to be normalized. All difficult conversations needs to be normalized, I feel. So I wanted to understand that how, what trauma means to you personally, and how, what kind of resilience it has taught you, if you have ever gone through any kind of trauma yourself, or while writing the book, if you have realized or remembered something which then didn't feel like a trauma, but later it felt that, oh yeah, I mean, that was a bad thing that happened to me.
Rewinding back about 10 years, in 2015, when I moved to Bangalore, I started volunteering with a domestic violence charity called Chain. And then I met the founder, Hera, and she had started Chain Pakistan, which was an online platform for women in Pakistan. And she said, hey, you've just moved to India. I really want to start an India platform because a lot of traffic to our website is coming from India. I said, absolutely, let's go for it. And we started the India platform. And had I not just jumped into this project, I just kind of did it on a whim. I didn't think too much about it. I didn't have one strong intention in this field, but I just did it. I thought it'll help people, it'll help women. I'm a feminist. And that was when the change started happening. And when I started, I was also volunteering with this group of about 100 or so volunteers, and we were talking about things like domestic violence, which I'd never done before in my life.
For you also, it was like sharing if you had ever gone through any such kind of trauma yourself.
It was just like being in the space where everybody's talking about it, and it's fine, it's okay. And there's a person in Italy who had a terrible childhood, or there's a person in the UK who has left a abusive marriage, and we can talk to each other, and I didn't have to explain anything to anybody.
Correct. They already know what it feels like.
What a feeling that is, right?
That is amazing, because that's what we all look for, I think, to have conversations like this with like-minded people. And even if you haven't gone through the exact same thing, but you understand parts of that traumatic event or the emotion behind it. For you also, I wanted to ask, like, what has working with trauma and resilience taught you about your own self?
Everything. It's Rocky books, in a way, is an extremely selfish exercise. It is.
Totally.
It's cathartic.
Yes.
When I sat down and wrote the first 4 books, and I was working with Sheena, who's a childhood friend of mine, and we grew up together. We know each other very well. I'm super comfortable with her, and I trust and respect her so much. And it just felt so cathartic to put down. Those are my emotions.
Correct.
In the Rahul and Tanu and Ali,
absolutely,
in the books, those are my emotions. When he feels a pain in his tummy, someone feels a pain in their chest.
It's just a reflection of your fragments of your emotions.
Someone's heart is beating fast. When they hear the shouting in the next room, they go into fight or flight mode, or they are, I think the hypervigilance was a major one for me. It is, maybe definitely. I shouldn't say selfish, maybe I should say like autobiographical, but it is, I'm going to be honest.
Definitely. Same, even for me to start getting into animal welfare, or to even start like a brand. The brand was just about keeping things for pet care. But then when I got introduced to so many other facets of animals and everything, for me also it was a cathartic experience, because all my traumas, the healing process started when I had the dogs in my life, and they added so much to it, and a lot of courage and demotivation which I faced, it came back through a source of happiness, which are these dogs. And now when I talk about it in schools or prepare workshops and presentations and things like that, it is all centric that trauma which I have had in my life, and how my dogs have helped me. And recently, I think today only, I posted that picture having a difficult time with my anxiety, and how my dogs are always sensing it before I sense it, and how they kind of immediately are there around me. And you should talk about it. And I'm not saying that for everyone the healing process comes from animals, but it comes through something or the other. Even somebody who has a child, it will be the similar something for them. If they're going through some anxiety or depression, the children or that particular child will be a source of comfort for them.
Absolutely.
For parents also, I think it's so important to protect that child from any kind of trauma. And for pet parents also, it's so important to protect the pet from any kind of trauma. I think in both ways, again, there is such a big correlation between animals and humans.
Absolutely. I think also a lot of people who have pets now, we treat our pets like they're our children.
Yes.
And there is, I see a lot of similarities between, we talk to parents who say, I want to do better for my children than my parents did for us. And it's the same with having a pet. Because growing up in the 90s, pets weren't treated like precious little things. They were usually tied up or chained outside, stuff like that. I think the cycles, we're breaking cycles in many ways.
You worked at the intersection of social tech and human pain. How do you protect your own mental health while holding space for others? When you're writing the books, when you finish the entire process, or you're giving like having a conversation about the books, how do you deal with your, like I said, how do you hold space for your own mental health when you're dealing with these conversations?
I think that's still something that's difficult for me, and I haven't quite figured that out. But I think the work is what is helping me a lot.
As in the conversations around.
The conversations, knowing that I'm doing something about it. I also have had anxiety. And one of the things about anxiety is when you feel like you don't have control, and this feels like taking control, in a way.
That's great. And I hope that through your books, it reaches out to more and more children and adults, and people start normalizing it as and when they read these books. And thank you so much for writing these books, and hopefully you'll be able to take them ahead to a much more wider audience. Before we wrap up our episode today, Nida, just wanted to thank you so much for being a part of this and having all these conversations. But before we close it, I want to have some fun questions in the end, some quirky ones, and like a rapid fire sort of a things, and then we can just wrap up today's episode. I have a question. It says, if you could gift every child in the world one superpower to cope with life's storms, what would it be?
That is such a difficult question. But I think children innately have a strong moral compass, and they just know right from wrong. And I think children just have that superpower naturally. And they're also very honest.
Right.
So any emotion they're feeling is a very super honest emotion. It hasn't been diluted by any external forces.
Right. So superpower would be, say, honesty.
Honesty, trust in yourself.
Right.
Trust in what you're feeling.
That's a great tip. And I think all children should learn that, and all parents should teach their children to be honest and transparent by being honest and transparent at home with their parents. We all want to know, what is your favorite, all-time favorite children's book?
I used to read so much as a child. Something that I go back to reading all the time is The Wind in the Willows.
Oh.
It's a book that's about anthropomorphic animals. It's about a weasel and a rat and a mole and a badger and their friends. They live in the English countryside and they're friends. And it's my escapism book. It's what I read when I want to escape.
I think for me, I don't remember reading any animal book as a child. I was more, somehow it just didn't come to me. But I used to love reading David Copperfield.
Ooh.
A lot. That was one of my first books also, and I loved reading it.
It's a great story.
I've read it like many times.
Yeah.
And I think that also like talks about a child, and I used to really feel, I used to relate myself a lot.
Yeah, because he's going through all kinds of negative stuff.
I think, that was one of my favorite book. All right. One dog who stole your heart, inspired you, apart from Rocky. Any other dog or a cat?
I would have to say Sunny after Rocky, because I picked him up off the street. He was so sad, and I didn't get the puppy experience with Rocky because when we took him home, he was an adult dog. So with Sunny, I think I got the puppy experience,
right?
Which is also crazy.
Yeah,
puppies
and
are
very
crazy.
different. Very
different.
Yeah.
The biting and the chewing up of things.
Nibbling,
I had not experienced that. That was really fun.
That's so amazing. Another interesting question is a word you find yourself overusing a lot when you're writing. Any such quirk or word?
I feel like I'm like super guilty of, I use commas a lot. I can't think of a word, but yeah, I think I use them wrongly.
In
And
any
like,
place and any place.
I just, instead of like, I like don't know how to use a hyphen.
I think for me, I use a hyphen.
Right.
In the middle of conversation, a line or something.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, I like commas.
I think it's important to emote your way in writing. Sometimes it may be grammatically
Who
wrong.
cares about grammar?
And finally, one last question before we wrap up is that we want to know that if Rocky was here listening to this podcast, what do you think he would bark to our listeners? What would be his message from a dog perspective?
Listen to your dog. Listen to dogs. He knew his boundaries. He had very strong boundaries as a dog. I couldn't pet him on certain parts of his body. I think his message would be, listen to me, to what I'm telling you, and we'll be friends after that.
Yes. I think it's important for all pet parents to know that, and that it's so essential to understand your dog's body language, your dog's behavior, and what they are trying to tell you, because I'm sure all dogs, just like children, also are trying to express what they're feeling. But children, after a point of time, they can speak about it, but a dog cannot, or a cat cannot. It's important to understand their body language and give it some time and patience, and have that capacity to understand what they are going through, what they're asking for, what is their need for attention at that moment. And that I think changes the entire dynamic of a human and a animal bond and a relationship. That was a wonderful podcast chat that we had. It was so good to have you here as our first guest, and thank you so much for doing this and coming here and sharing your experience and talking about Rocky books and Rocky and Sunny and all that is associated with animals, humans, mental health, trauma, and what are the different ways of coping with it. Before we end and say goodbye to all our viewers today, anything that you want to ask me and something that you would want to say from your end about Rocky books or just animal welfare?
I don't think I want to ask you anything. I just want to say I'm really glad that I met you and I've learned so much about what you do.
Likewise.
And why you're so passionate about what you do. I know there is a fire there that is pushing you forward, and I love meeting people like that who have that that's something inside you that's motivating you to want to make a change. I really admire that about.
Likewise, I'm so inspired by you for the fact, because this is something very different that you're doing, writing books for children, trying to help them understand how to navigate through trauma, because we didn't have that.
We didn't have that.
We didn't have that at all. We didn't have that in terms of children, in terms of adults, or even dogs and cats. It's so important to have a space like that. And of course, any kind of a natural resource, whether it's writing, talking, books, or just playing with animals, if any of those coping mechanisms come through these processes or resources, there's nothing greater than that, I think. No textbook or no structured SOP or anything can teach you something like this. With that being said, I hope all of you enjoyed our episode today with Nida here, and we are so grateful and thankful to have Nida in our lives. And I'm sure, and I hope all the children who are reading the books find some kind of courage and motivation to deal with their crisis. Thank you so much for watching. We will come back again soon with another new episode with some interesting conversation. Thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed the second episode of Pawcast with Sneha. To watch more of this interesting content and meet some of our very inspirational guests, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and keep watching us and share your comments and feedback. Thank you so much.